Natural Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, also known as the Ndrmc, is formerly known as the National Disaster Coordinating Council or NDCC. It's a working group of various government and non-government, civil sector, and private sector organizations of the government of the Republic of the Philippines, established by Republic Act 10.121 or 10.12.1 of 2010. So, sabihin po niyan, ang Ndrmc at ang NDCC ay pares lang po ng functions yan, no? Pares ng functions, pares ng vision and vision po yan. Pero, ang NDC at Ndrmc, meron silang one goal. Ano po yun, no? Take note. Ito po yun, no? Yung goal nila, no? The Ndrmc plans, leads the guiding activities in the fields of communications, warning, signals, emergency, transportation, evacuation, rescue, engineering, health, and rehabilitation, public education, and auxiliary services such as the firefighting, the police, and the community. So, yun nga. Yun yung pinaka-goal nila, no? Take note to, no? The chairman of the Ndrmc is si Walter Gasmin. So, meron po tayong tinatawag na 7 categories sa pag-monitor ng calamities base sa Ndrmc. Sa monitor nila ito, no? Tapos, sa earthquake information naman, no? Minomonitor niya yung lindol, and then may magkakaroon ng aftershocks, no? Makikipag-coordinate ang PVOX. After po makipag-coordinate ng PVOX sa Ndrmc, so i-execute naman po ng Ndrmc yung information, ikakalat po sa local government saka sa barangay officials, no? And then sa number 2, tsunami information, syempre pag nagkaroon ng earthquake, nakikipag-coordinate ang PVOX. So, syempre pag nagkipag-coordinate ang PVOX sa Ndrmc, so i-execute nila ng Ndrmc, tapos pagka-execute ng Ndrmc, ikakalit yung information sa local government sa barangay. Syempre barangay na ang bahag ng execute doon. So, sa rainfall advisory yun, syempre pag umuulan, may pag-coordinate na din ng Ndrmc sa Philippine Geophysical Astronomical Service Station or Pag-asa, no? Syempre pag umuulan, no, i-distribute ulit na yung information sa Ndrmc, syempre tapos ang Ndrmc, ipapasa nila sa local government. Pag-apod ng local government, syempre, i-coordinate sa barangay. So, next naman sa tag dito sa General Flood Advisory. Syempre, pag umuulan, babaha. So, pag bumaha, syempre, dyan ang Ndrmc at ng local government at ng barangay. May pag-coordinate sila sa Pag-asa kung gaano ba kadaming ulan ang binuhos niya para bumaha, kung bakit bumaha dun sa lugar na yun. Syempre, sa gale warning, kapag umuulan, ng hangin, syempre, may pag-coordinate na naman ng Ndrmc sa Pag-asa para may likas ng mga kababayan natin sa mga tabing ilog para dito, syempre, may likas. Syempre, i-execute ng local government at saka ng barangay base sa Ndrmc information. Severe weather bulletin, yan, yung mga nagdaang bagyo, syempre. May pag-coordinate ulit sila sa Pag-asa. Habang may pag-coordinate sila sa Pag-asa, syempre, ang Ndrmc na ipag-coordinate nila sa local government sa barangay, i-execute ulit yun. Kagaya na pagliligtas sa Rizal. Yung mga nasalanta na natao sa ito, syempre, base din sa report ng Pag-asa, syempre, nandun ang local government unit, Ndrmc, at ang iba pang law enforcement agencies na nandun, no? Tapos, dito tayo sa next page, next slide. The National Risk Reduction Management Council, the NRC, is also working with various government and non-government civil sectors, organization of government, and public health established by, yan. Kagaya nga yan, no? Bakit yung kanina. Pag-uusapan po natin mamaya is about dito sa, dito, pag-uusapan natin yan. Kasi related din sa binati ko dito kanina, yan yun eh. Yan, pag-uusapan natin ito. So, Dito naman tayo sa National Risk Reduction Management Council. Yan. It's also about administered by the Office of Civil Defense under the Department of Defense. So, pares din po ng powers and functions yan. Yung pares din sila na ginagawa. So, ang nangyayari dyan is ang Civil Defense at ang Department of National Defense, nagsiserve sila para implement o sila yung arm ng National Disaster Risk Management Council, no? Dito naman tayo sa about sa responsibilities, no? The National Disaster Management Council, sila yung mga responsibilidad sa mga kalamidad, sila yung magre-rescue, sila nagpapalaganap ng earthquake, drill, disaster emergencies, no? Sila yan. Sila nag-ano. Nakipag-coordinate din sila sa barangay, yan. Sa barangay, sa local government, LGU, sa barangay. Tapos, dito siya, Ndrrmc and the councils utilize the UN, United Nations Cluster Approach in Disaster. So, ano nga ba to? Ako rin nalilito dyan. Ano ba to? So, natin, take note, no? Ang ibig sabihin po niyan is, noong 2005 kasi, yung pagpapa-improve ng humanitarian response during the after disasters. Maraming 36 countries kasi ito by the United Nations Cluster System, by the disaster management, no? Tapos but basic kasi dito sa UN cluster approach, nagpo-focus po sila sa major disasters, no, ng Pilipinas sa UN, no. Ito yung mga highly adapted na local conditions ng isang country. So, sabihin, for example, nasa critical kalagayan ng isang country o isang bayan, no, ang local agencies, kumbaga parang may kasunduan sila para ma-improve pa yung coordination with the international humanitarian agencies at ultimately increase the effectiveness of disaster management. So, dito naman tayo. About naman yan sa ASEAN. ASEAN Agreement, Disaster Management Emergency Response. So, an international commitment. So, yan. So, ang sabihin po niyan, no, basta agreement nila, disaster management, it is to place, take note, it is to place regional policies, operational and logistical mechanism to enable ASEAN members states to seek and extend assistance in time disaster and carry out collaborative undertaking on disaster mitigation, prevention, preparedness, response, recovery. Yun yung pinaka-agreement nila, diba? About sa yan. Sa mga nabanggit ko, technical lang po doon. And then, dito naman, no, according to Official Gazette ng Malacanang, May 27, 2010, na-establish ang Republic Act 10, 1991. Ito yun, no? Also known as the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act of 2010. Represent the National Disaster Coordinating Councilor or NDCC shall henceforth be the known as the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, hereinafter referred to as Ndrrmc or the National Council. So, yung sabihin yan, meaning, according to Republic Act 10 and 21, by the various local governments through the country should establish the local DRM or Local Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office at the regional, provincial, municipal, city, and barangay levels. So, as a function arm of the local government, these offices are responsible to create a local disaster risk management plan according to frameworks of Ndrrmc, covering by 4 aspects, including disaster preparedness, response, prevention, and mitigation, rehabilitation, and recovery. So, ang pinaka-importante lang naman kasi dyan sa 10.121 is make sure that policies and plans are in place to prepare community when disaster strikes. So, kailangan maging prepared ka o maging prepared ang ahensya at magkaroon ng polisiya kapag magkaroon ng disaster strikes. Tapos, dapat magkaroon din siya ng programa, dapat i-increase ang awareness and knowledge of risk ng hazard.
Ndrrmc, which is formerly the NDCC, is the national council that is empowered with the policy making, coordination, integration, supervision, monitoring, and evaluation function for the protection and welfare of the people during disasters or emergencies. Kasi when you say Ndrrmc, ito yung organizational na tumutulong sa mga tao kung may kalamidad na dumarating sa ating bansa. Sila yung organizational na willing mag-provide ng transportation para sa mga taong kailangan ilikas sa evacuation center. Next, it advises the President on the status of disaster preparedness, prevention, mitigation, response, and rehabilitation operation being undertaken by the government and the private sector. It also serves as the top coordinator of all disaster management in the highest allocator or resources in the Philippines Republic Act 10.121. In Republic Number 10.121 mandates the LDRRMC to take the lead in preparing for response and recovery from any disaster and its effects wherein the following criteria are observed. First, the barangay DRRMC if a barangay is affected. Second, the city or municipal DRRMC if 2 or more barangays are affected. Third, the provincial DRRMC if 2 or more municipalities and cities are affected. The regional DRRMC if 2 or more provinces are affected, and the NDRRMC if 2 or more regions are affected. Next, this is the NDRRMC organizational structure. The NDRRMC is headed by the Secretary of the Department of National Defense as chairperson, with the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology as a vice chairperson for disaster prevention and mitigation, and the Secretary of the Department of the Interior and the Local Government as vice chairperson for disaster preparedness, the Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development as vice chairperson for disaster response, and the Director General of the National Economic and Development Authority as vice chairperson for disaster rehabilitation and recovery. It also includes the heads of several concerned government agencies, non-government organizations, and of LGUs, a full list of which is found in Section 5 of Republic Act Number 10.121. Next, the RDRRMC is tasked to coordinate, integrate, supervise, and evaluate the activities of local NDRRMCs or LDRRMCs. It is also responsible for ensuring disaster-sensitive regional development plans in case of emergencies shall convene the different regional line agencies and concerned institutions and authorities or Republic Act Number 10.121. The NDRRMC and intermediary LDRRMCs support the LGUs that are in the front line and have the primary responsibility of responding to a disaster. The NDRRMC and LDRRMCs set the coordination mechanism and policies for the private sector society groups.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or the NDRRMC, is the agency tasked to prepare for and respond to natural calamities like typhoon and earthquakes. It also monitors human-induced emergencies such as armed conflicts and maritime accidents. So, ang NDRRMC no ay nagprepara at nagre-responde sa mga maaring may dumarating na mga kalamidad, no, katulad ng mga typhoons, mga earthquakes. Hindi lamang sila nakapokus doon. Also nagkakandak sila ng monitoring human-induced emergencies, katulad na naman ng mga maritime accidents, yung mga barkong nasa dagat na kanina din minomonitor at nire-respondihan. The NDRRMC plans and leads the guiding activities in the field of communication, warning signals, emergency, transportation, evacuation, rescue, engineering, health and rehabilitation, public education, and auxiliary service such as firefighting and the police in the country. So, dito, ang NDRRMC ay nagkaplano at nagaguide, no, sa mga activities na kanilang mga ginagawa, such as yung mga pagkakandak nila ng mga warning signals, which is yung mga priorities nila, no? Pagtutulong sa mga evacuation, nagre-rescue, yan. At meron din sila dito tinawag na public education, no? O yung mga auxiliary service. Ito yung mga firefighting, yung mga earthquake drill, yun. Sumasali sila dyan, tawag nito, ini-engage din sila dyan sa pagkakandak ng mga activities na yun, no? para maging aware yung ibang tao na ano ang kanilang gagawin at iiwasan sa tuwing may darating na mga emergencies. Mission: to increase the country's resilience to disasters, reducing loss of life and negative impact on environment. Economic, social, physical, and environmental asset caused by and human-induced disasters through strategic commitment and engagement of all levels of society in understanding and managing identified threats. So, yung mission nila ay pinapatatag yung ating country, no, sa mga kalamidad na dumarating, no. Iniiwasan nila yung kawalan ng buhay, reducing of life, mga negatibong epekto, no, sa ating ekonomiya, no. Yan na tawag nito, na magiging sa ibang tao, na maging aware sila sa kanilang mga ginagawa sa pamagitan ng paggawa nila sa pamagitan ng pamamaraan nila ng strategic commitment, no, o pagiging parang nag-i-engage sila sa lahat ng mga organization, society, parang nakikipag-coordinate din sila. Vision: disaster risk management in the Republic of Marcos is working towards the goal of secure, healthy, wealthy, and resilient nation. It encompasses a holistic vision of the key elements in disasters management, from risk assessment, disaster risk reduction, early warnings, and emergency alerts, to preparedness, response, relief, recovery, and rehabilitation. So, yung vision nila ay panatilihing maging secure, no, yung ating kalusugan, no, mga kayamanan. Hindi lamang sila nakapokus doon sa iisang parte, no, kundi holistic vision, no. Ibig sabihin pangkalahatan, no, general yung nila, tawag nito, pagkakandak ng mga risk assessment, no, yung mga warning, yung mga early warnings, yun, emergency alerts, preparedness, yun yung nila, pinaka vision nila. Disaster reduction main goal: the primary objective of the National Calamity and Disaster Preparedness Plan is to ensure effective and efficient implementation of civil protection program through an integrated, multi-sectoral, and community-based approach and strategies for the protection and preservation of life, property, and environment. So, ang main goal nila is to ma-achieve yung kanilang tinatawag nito, yung kanilang yung kanilang yung mga paano yung goal tsaka yung ano nila vision, no, is to magiging ano siya, magiging effective, no, magiging tawag nito, mas magiging success, no. So, pinapahalaga nila yung civil protection ng iba't ibang ang mga tao, no, sa pamamagitan ng community-based approach. So nag-i-engage nga din sila, parang nakikipag tawag nito interagency din sila, no, parang nakikipag-coordinate din sila sa mga ibang mga community. Ngayon, so inaano din nila, pinoprotektahan din nila yung preservation of life, pinapahalagan nila din yung buhay ng tao, ating mga property, at higit sa lahat yung ating kalikasan.
So first is the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council and the Ndrrmc has been building resilience of education by advancing school safeties. So dito po, ang Ndrrmc ay yung parang tinuturo nila sa mga school or sa mga estudyante na ma-withstand or mag-bounce back galing sa mahirap na sitwasyon. So, ano nga ba yung pwedeng ituro sa mga paaralan? What DRR activities can take place in school? Community-based disaster risk management. Ito po yung naka-base sa komunidad yung ituturo. Tas, syempre sa mga ituturo, may mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin at kung paano ito gawin. Ito po yung DRR policy strategy. Third one is disaster preparedness and emergency response. Dahil po, ito po yung pagiging handa ka, mga response na gagawin. Sunod naman is early warning system. Dahil nga po makabago na ang teknolohiya natin, may mga advanced tayo na makakapagsabi, advanced na gadget na makakatulong upang malaman natin kung may papalapit na ba na disaster o na trahedya. Tapos, infrastructure support. Di ba nga po nasa school, mga activities sa school, ituturo din nila kung paano yung mga safety na gagawin. Kunyari, kailangan na mag-evacuate sa school, tuturo nila kung saan yung tamang daan at kung sinong mauna upang hindi magkagulo. Tapos, multi-hazard risk. Ito po yung tinuturo nila dito, yung mga seryoso po at maaaring makapatay na mga disaster. Planned relocation. Dito naman po sa planned relocation, tuturo nila yung mga dapat puntahan, yung mga safety place dahil dun sa disaster, mga makakatulong sa kanila upang hindi masaktan, ganun, mga lugar. Tapos ay resilient livelihood development. Tuturo naman nila dito kung paano makakabangon ulit at makaka-recover sa nangyaring trahedya. Next is the course aim to orient teachers in the fundamental disaster risk. Ito po, yung naman po dito, tinuturuan yung mga teacher sa bagyo upang maituro din sa mga estudyante yung mga dapat gawin dahil mga teacher nga po yung nagtuturo sa mga estudyante. Next is what needs to be done to support DRR activities. Tas preparedness. Yung una, identification and measuring disaster risk. Dapat alamin kung gaano kalala dahil may mga disaster na kailangang kalma ka lang. Tulad ng kunyari, may bagyo, pero hindi ganun kalakas. Pero disaster pa din siya. Dapat sa bahay ka lang, hindi mo kailangang lumikas. Pero pag yung bagyo, sobrang lakas na, kayo yung nasa sentro. Minsan, kailangan mo ding lumikas at pumunta sa mga ligtas na lugar. Kaya kailangan, alamin din natin yung mga measures ng disaster. Second is educational knowledge development. Kailangan maging maalam ka sa mga pwedeng mangyari. Dito lalabas ang iyong pagiging handa sa education and knowledge development. Informing people about their risk. Ito po yung parang mga balita, yung ipaalam sa mga tao para maging handa sila. Yung mga nagbo-broadcast po, ganun, pwede din po yan. Tapos ay incorporating DRM into national planning and investment. Tapos ito po, yung parang ipangkahalahatan na kasi lahat po kailangan maging safe. Tapos ay strengthening institution and legislative arrangement. Ito po yung dapat ay palakasin pa ang mga ipapatupad para sa Ndrrmc educational training o mas pahalagahan pa yung pagtuturo dito. Dito naman po, Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council. Set the directions, development, implementation, and their coordination of disaster risk management program within their territorial jurisdiction. Organize and conduct training, orientation, and knowledge management activities on disaster reduction and management at local level. Operate a multi-hazard early warnings linked to disaster risk reduction to provide accurate and timely advice. So dito po, ito naman po yung pagtuturo din sa mga ibang lugar na hindi ganun kabilis makasagap ng balita. Parang mas papatibayan pa nila o mas aayusin para mas mabilis silang makasagap ng balita dahil mas mabilis makasagap ng balita o mas mabilis makaalam ang mga nasa mga cities kaysa sa mga probinsya o sa mga province. Kasi mas parang high-tech ang mga gamit sa mga cities, ganun. Tulad kunyari sa Manila kaysa sa mga mapupuno pat mga bundok na lugar. Kaya dapat pahalagahan din sila yung mga nasa local level.
Impacts from natural disasters are on the rise. Around the world, hurricanes, droughts, floods, cyclones, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions pose a growing threat to economies and the lives of millions. Global disaster losses have risen sharply from over the last few decades, totaling $4.2 trillion since 1980. Moreover, the poor are suffering the most. Over the last 20 years, low-income countries experienced just over a quarter of flood events, but suffered nearly 90% of related casualties. Investments in preparedness and resilience can keep these natural hazards from becoming human catastrophes. With drivers like rapid urbanization and climate change, however, disaster risk is evolving rapidly in today's world. To know where and how to make investments before a disaster strikes, we need to be able to identify risks rapidly, rigorously, and regularly. From individuals and communities to governments and businesses, understanding disaster risk is everyone's business. And with technology making the tools and information more accessible than ever, people all over the planet are pitching in. Citizens in Nepal are crowdsourcing more accurate maps of their neighborhoods using open data. Universities from around the world are collaborating on multilingual films to spread awareness of volcanic risk to communities in the East Caribbean and the Pacific. Government agencies are even using social media to better understand flood patterns in the Philippines. In today's world, you don't have to be a disaster expert to make a difference. Whether you are a scientist, a politician, or a concerned citizen, we can all help better understand our risk and make steps toward lasting resilience. What will you do? To learn more, visit gfdrr.org/innovation-lab.